AI podcast where we'll continue to grow. A world of innovation where dreams become reality. Come join the movement, let's take AI to the next level. We're breaking barriers, rewriting the code. Together we'll conquer, watch our ideas unfold. The future starts here, joining the revolution. Let's say our podcast, the ultimate solution.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. This is Leland Best of Best Live TV, and I want to thank you for coming to Best AI Podcast. Unfortunately, two of the members on our panel weren't able to make it this evening. Greg and Chris are doing their thing in the world, so we just have four of us this evening. Myself, the AI video guy, Lee Love, the photo mentor, Ross McCamey, the marketing maverick, and Brad Slows, who I call the awakened Wookiee. Fortunately, we're all going to be able to sit down and talk AI for an hour with you tonight, and we're going to touch primarily on image generation, from its historical origins to where we are today with AI. So rather than hold you up here, I'm going to let you get right into the broadcast, which was cut off just a little at the beginning because of some technical difficulties. But we asked the panel where the news was of the day in AI, and this is where it took us. Enjoy the show.
Nothing.
As usual.
Boring. I tell you, for me, and I think everyone else that's in the AI world has just totally blown away with what OpenAI has done. The two big things, of course, is that Google announced Gemini 1.5, which was their advanced version. They did 1.0 earlier, and now they just, like last week, I think, and then this week they announced Gemini 1.5 is supposed to be better, that type of thing. But of course, the guys at OpenAI, not to be undone or overdone or whatever, like 2 hours later announced something called Sora, which is totally amazing. It basically is a video generator, and it will do video, it will text to video, and everybody in the industry is blown away. I could not believe the quality. You can do 60 seconds, which is longer than any of the others I've seen do, and it's just amazing. Everybody's really astounded at the quality, and it's really going to change the industry. I think my comment, if you're in a Facebook group, is that I think that the people that are funding Pika Labs and all these other systems are really in trouble because of the quality and how fast you can generate video with this thing. It's just amazing.
And I'm excited to see what happens with that. And then leading into the AR world and the spatial computing, I think AI is going to take over in that industry as well whenever you see all these VR headsets coming out.
That's awesome. Brad, I know you were mentioning before the show that you got a little tied up on other projects and things, but what have you heard lately? I know you're in Vegas there. There's got to be a lot of stuff, events, anything going on over in Vegas right now?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of events coming up in the spring where they're delving into experiential design, which includes VR worlds, augmented reality being added to it, things like that. I think it's the NDA show that's coming up. I'm going to try and attend that, and it looks incredibly exciting because I've been looking at interactive panels. I've been looking at all these different things that integrate with your cell phone, integrate probably very shortly with the VR goggles as well, and a bunch of other things. But yeah, Lee and I, we were talking about this before we started. I got asked to narrate a book. So it's a perfect time for me to also try and narrate mine at the same time. But I'm looking at Descript as far as cloning my voice. So that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, you have to write your book, don't you, first, Brad, before you can narrate it? Or
this will just be my first one, Liquid Leadership. Let's get that one out of the way before we get ambitious with everything else.
Now, you do realize if you were to take that book that you've already written, Liquid Leadership, and piecemeal a couple of chapters of that into the AI, that it's going to be able to recognize your writing style and your methodology and that madness that goes on in your brain that tells you what you want to write next. It kind of learns from that. And that's
Yeah.
what I
It does.
was the beauty of it, because then what you present does sound like you. It's not like people are always thinking, oh, well, you're just not doing anything. You're just writing content and you're letting it do all the work. Well, no, I trained it to work like me. And that was something Lee mentioned last week when we were talking about creating imagery. And that's another big thing in the news right now is copyright infringement for both not only imagery, but video content as well as audio content now is being a big thing because they're pulling away from TikTok. You know, they're trying to make all of these claims that you can't use our audio. So AI audio generators are obviously going to take a big space there where we can now create our own melodies. If you don't want us to use your, you know, handwritten storyboard content that you created 10, 20 years ago and don't want to earn some royalties off of it because people use it. I don't care what anybody says. If you use somebody else's audio content, it's going to promote your audio content. Why people are so bent out of shape over that, I don't understand. It should kind of be the same with audio, or I should say video and imagery, don't you think, Lee? What are we doing wrong by representing styles and images that are brought on by others' thought process, but are just as well the same principles we could use? Do you know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I don't understand it either. I mean, I look intuitively understand it. Some friends of mine were texting me last night and saying, "Oh, this open AI thing is awful. It's going to put a lot of people out of business. They're going to be sued." And I'm thinking, really? Now these people are in the video streaming business, okay? And my single quote was, you realize that the work you do is based on the advancement in technology. In other words, we can do on a laptop now what we used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to do. The video, so what's going to happen is the same thing to Hollywood that's happened to the television industry. It's going to be in the hands of everybody. And I believe that gives more people with more creativity. I mean, you and I now could literally create a movie if we have a great story, of course, and it could be compelling. So I don't know. I'm really interested in what's going to happen. I think the thing I keep thinking, the biggest people I think are going to be impacted in all of these things are the stock industries. If you're doing stock video and stock photos and I can create that myself, then I don't need that.
Especially when you're looking at Sora and what it did. I mean, looking at the demos that OpenAI put out and the waves, the way it goes, the one with the lady blinking and her eyeballs, like you're just not going to need drone footage anymore for these stock images. I think people are going to have to get more creative on how they're using their tools to be able to do something that can't be generated by AI that's more specific and not as general. And I think that's really what it's going to force people to do, is to get creative if they want to stay in that lane instead of selling their stock images.
You got to up your game, and it's the same in every industry, no matter what it is.
Well, look at animation. I'm a big fan of, like, you know, shows like Arcane and The Legend of Vox Machina and all these. The production time has been cut in a third. Like, we're down to a third now. And the 3D animation is so damned incredibly impressive when it comes to character development, watching the character age. This is another big thing I've been mesmerized about. And a lot of these effects, you know, if you're not in the business of animation or illustration, you're just sitting there going, wow, that's a great show. But you don't realize they've turned that character around not only 360 degrees, but they're also pulling away in perspective, and they're adding all these lights and all these crazy things. And I love what you put up, Leland. But in animation, I see huge leaps taking place. And a lot of people may not know this about animation, but a lot of it is redundant imagery and things like that. So how do you keep that background fresh? How do you keep that looking polished and new? AI is revolutionizing all this right now.
Yeah, I totally
well,
agree.
and the cool thing though is, you know, it's still, Brad, and you would have certainly agree with, it's still the story. And that's the same thing I tell people. Let's look at photography as a small example. You can do it more stuff with an iPhone now than you could ever do. The quality is great, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all about the story. It's all about composition.
Right.
So as the technology comes down, it gets into more people's hands. You still have to be able to tell that story. And I think that's where the real creativity comes from that people are ignoring.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Russ, you want to touch on that since we mentioned mobile there? What have you got that's really happening in the mobile industry now? I know you brought up Samsung and their new S24, is it, that just came out recently?
Yep,
And
the S24, and they're launching all of the updates across the Samsung platforms. They're going to start getting the AI upgrades. And the really cool part about that is my favorite one is, well, there's a couple. The biggest one I think that's going to have an impact across the entire world is the translator. You can be on the call with somebody right then, right there. You're speaking English, they're speaking Spanish, and it translates in between. You can either hear them have the conversation and have it translate, or you can just say, hey, I don't want to hear them at all, and just have the translation come across. That's really cool. Then it has the update where you can actually just circle an image and it's going to search the internet for that image. So another really cool update there with the AI. But I think what we're really going to see coming down the pipeline is the spatial computing and competing or comparing that and putting it together with the AI. Imagine a coder using their AR goggles, and they've got this giant screen over here that they're building in this environment, and over here they've got their generative AI that you say, hey, build me code to do this, and you can just swipe it, and you basically are living in Tony Stark's world, and you can completely do everything right there in AR. I think over the next 10 years, we're going to see that just explode. And I think when you think of how lazy humans are, even though we're innovative, I think that's the reality of where we're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. In your workspace, it's going to be in an AR environment with AI as an assistant.
Good point. I kind of wanted to take this. We went a little off base there for a few minutes, but we got a late start, and that's mostly my fault. I wanted to head over to the agenda for just a second that we put together for today, which was to kind of go over where we came from to get here. And when I say that, I'm referring mostly to the AI image generation that we're working with right now, because I mentioned the copyright issues. We've talked about, are we creating original content? And now we've got OpenAI and DALL-E and Midjourney and others wanting to put their brand on our creative content, which I'm okay in some cases. Okay, we see these watermarks all the time on live streaming video apps where we're producing content outside of paying them. So we're getting their software for free. We're using their software for free. We're streaming to free social sites. And so they feel it's okay. And we're okay with the fact that they're branding their videos if they go out and we're not paying for the use of their software. Now, in this case, we're paying to use OpenAI. We're paying to use DALL-E. We're paying to use Midjourney. So I'm curious why these avenues have suddenly opened up to say they can start putting their stamp on our work.
I wasn't aware of that, Leland. Are you saying that a lot of these AI generative systems are now talking about watermarking their products?
Yes.
Even if the ones you don't pay for, right?
And that's what I'm curious about. I know I want to see what direction this is taking, and that is where I'm hoping it's going, is that it's only the free versions of the software that are going to be watermarked. Ross, have you heard anything different in that regard? Because that's not what I'm hearing.
No, honestly, that's the first I've heard of that, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of legislative based when it comes down to earmarking and watermarking the AI generated content and differentiating those. I kind of wonder if they're heading that off ahead of time, but this is the first I've heard of it, and that's kind of what came to my mind.
Well, I could understand if they were going to embed that in the metadata, but to watermark it visually is a problem for me because now it becomes unusable.
Yep, I agree.
What good is it?
I would cut the water. Well, the watermark could be a small emblem in the corner, which I would cut out. Honestly, I've done it in the past on stuff that felt they could watermark my creative content and my IP, and I'm like, no.
I've seen some AI software that will actually remove watermarks. So
yeah, and that's a possible AI that we may have to contend with in the future as well, is one that's capable of removing watermarks from our own branded videos that we have, because it can be scrubbed. We can scrub any person out of a beach scene right now. If we wanted to take them off the sand, we can take them off the sand. So I'm sure we can remove watermarks from videos, and that can be another avenue for people to go ahead and make profit off of other people's content.
It's actually one of the things you can do with the S24 with the new AI, as well as you can remove objects, including watermarks.
Did you have a comment, Brad, about that?
Yeah, I was just going to
Please
say
do.
there's going to be a niche market right now where people are either adding chemtrails to the skies or removing watermarks, one or the other.
Yeah.
And you can probably make 500 a day on that, doing that kind of work.
Wouldn't surprise me. So I wanted to
I have an
also
idea, man.
I wanted to go back just for a minute in history, in time. Lee, you had mentioned in the last broadcast, where did all of this image generation start? And I'm sorry if I'm getting distracted, but I have this little Bali guy who keeps jumping in during production and thinks he can be an executive producer. So
You're gonna have to make a box for him, 6 boxes, and can put him in there.
he's got boxes all over the place. He just doesn't seem to want to sit in
Oh,
one
my
right
friend.
now.
I'm in on the screen. You can be our 6th guest.
Exactly. So what was it? The Gutenberg printing press? It was one of those back
Well,
in the day.
I'm doing this.
Had
So
to be
I'm doing
something.
this story. I'm writing this article on technology that has impacted our lives and people are afraid of. And the first one I started with is the Gutenberg printing press. And so I started doing some research on it and found out that people were deathly afraid of this thing. They felt that, number one, the biggest was the church. The church felt that now if you had a Bible that was not in Latin, was in plain English, that was going to really take a lot of their power away. The other thing is the people that, of course, transcribe these things, what they felt was it was going to affect the accuracy because it could be, once you made a mistake, it just printed them over and over again. So, I mean, it was ironic to hear this because this is exactly the same arguments we're making about AI. Disinformation. That's the whole thing. I imagine that's why they want to watermark it, not to brand it, but because to protect us from some bad information. Like that's really going to do a good job. So anyway, so the printing press was something that obviously changed history, was a huge impact, and yet a lot of people were very, very afraid of it.
And look where we've gone from then. I mean, it was a press that literally took a serious amount of physical labor in order to, one, create each individual letter to put in a block and pour some ink over so that they could roll through the press on a single piece of paper at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
That in and of itself, when you think of the mechanical nature that started this process, and now all we do is take those same letters that we used to put in a printing press and type them on the screen, and now it generates everything for us and can then automate the process of producing that output onto a piece of paper.
Which is a great thing. This is what people don't seem to understand. In fact, when I do the demo later on, I'll bring this up, but it's the same. People are like, oh, well, look, it created a third leg, or it's doing 6 fingers.
Yeah.
This is the Gutenberg press where we're only at like a year or two into this thing. I mean, really, and look what's happening,
Double
and just
strikes.
look what OpenAI is doing, and just video, and that's only been about a year. It's like, oh my gosh, and so it's going. This is the worst it's going to be. It's only going to get better.
Yeah. Our own coin presses too. Go ahead, Brad.
We never escape our own history. I mean, why do you think the wheelbase of a car is the width it is? It's from Roman chariots. That's the width of a Roman chariot. Correct. Yeah. So, look, we still call things a slide deck. We haven't used slides since the 80s.
Was it you that posted a picture, Leland, of a overhead projector?
That was I. Yes.
Yeah.
That was I. Which I was posting that with the simple statement, I am this old. Kind of went viral for a little while there because a lot of people, and then of course one person, Curtis, decided to jump in and say, yeah, but thank God it wasn't an opaque projector. I was like, whoa, now you just
yeah.
I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid. And if you don't recall what an opaque projector is, that's the type that wasn't translucent. It didn't have a light that went through a panel of glass. It was actually a reflective mirror that bounced off of an opaque picture or object like a book and then mirrored the image back to the screen through a light broadcast. So that's what we started with for image generation, let's say. And then it went to hand-drawn digital creators, or not hand-drawn creators. You had a lot of really good artists doing a lot of really cool work prior to graphic design software coming out. Then we had graphic design software. Then we had CAD software, which enabled us to kind of produce 3D imagery and then it became motion 3D imagery. And now look at where we're at. We're creating motion, not just 3D imagery, but literally, what you would call cinematic photography with a text prompt.
And people, all these people that are doing the Chicken Little, the sky is falling kind of thing about jobs. What's ironic about that is it's almost like they're looking through this one little hole. They don't realize. I mean, I can name a dozen. How about long distance operators? Does anyone miss calling the long distance operator, make a phone call and spend $3 a minute? I don't. Does anybody miss elevator operators, railroad? I mean, you could go on and on and on. Technology has impacted every aspect of our life, and some people adapted, some that created new jobs, and also did away with some jobs. And that's just the way AI is going to do as well. Those people, that's the purpose of this show, in fact, is to educate people so they can learn to decide whether or not to use it and where to use it in their personal and business life.
Yeah, and I take this back to the folk tale of John Henry. And you think about John Henry, who went up against the steam engine and ultimately said, I can beat it. And he did. And then he died afterwards from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yet we look at what's happened with the steam engine. It turned into the combustion engine. And now we're going with EVs. And the technology is just expanding like crazy.
Well,
And John Henry is dead and in the past. And his ego allowed him to die. And who knows if he had a family or anybody who he had to take care of, that he decided to take on the steam engine to prove a point and then left them high and dry. And I just sit here and think, again, history repeating itself. The same type of thing is happening here with AI. So my cautionary tale is John Henry. Don't be John Henry when it comes to AI.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, because I've watched just in the last few years since COVID started. I've been in live streaming for over 10 years now, and I did a lot of video production back in the 80s for public television. So for me to look at where we started in 2022, 21, let's say, well, we were around into 20, so into 21 and 2, the advancements in technology that took place while everyone was sitting at home, having time to think about what is the next step? What do we do from here? How do we manipulate this new landscape? How are we going to generate an income when we can't even go to work? So we had to be innovative. And that's where I go back to the whole advance, improvise, overcome. If we don't do that every single day of our lives, then the advancements take over and we just can't keep up. So like Ross, I mean, I know it's not easy just keeping up with the mobile advancements that are going on, but the one you just mentioned is huge. Brad, go ahead.
I'm designing a book cover right now for a client, and I love book covers. It's like my favorite way to take 2 dimensions and slap you with, an image that's powerful and great type. And right now, I remember back in the days when I was a young art director, in New York City, and you had to do a photo shoot and come up with some crazy idea and hope that you could explain it well enough that the photographer and all the people who are involved could stage it properly. Well, now I have this great idea, and the name of the book has to do with this woman who dominated the retail industry for years. And I came up with this idea for a golden chessboard, gold and silver. And I wanted her to be represented as a queen with some sort of a symbol on top of the retail industry. Well, I can now program that in to AI, and I've already started to work with that a little bit, and it comes out almost hyper reality. It's beautiful. Yeah. And that used to take months to tell somebody, okay, I need you to carve out this big, chess piece, chrome it, dip it in gold chrome, electroplate it. Let's get the right photographer in, and it has to be a certain size so you don't see all these scratch marks on it. Get the lighting just right. Now I can program that into AI, and all of a sudden it spits out exactly what I want, and it looks hyper real. And it's beautiful. I mean, what I'm working on right now actually surprised me, and I was working on that maybe a half an hour before we started, and that it lessened my production time by, I
Right.
mean, literally, I'm down to an eighth of the time it used to take me to get stuff done.
That's hilarious.
You know,
Uh,
Brad, one of the areas I learned that in was way back when you probably remember desktop publishing
Yep.
software, right? PageMaker
I
and
use
the Xerox. What was the
PageMaker.
Xerox product? I forgot the name of it now.
Oh,
Anyway, and
yeah.
I was using and what I learned, wow, this is great. I can now do my own newsletter for my customers. What I realized though, I could turn out crap really quickly because I didn't know what the hell I didn't understand. You couldn't put 10 fonts and all. So that's that's the problem. Is exactly what you're saying. Your skills as a designer are still just as valuable because you understand that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll turn it out quickly as a tool, but your skill is still there. Your vision is
Yeah.
still there, and that is really your value add.
Speaking of
Yes.
tools, I want to just flash over for a second to one that I use on the daily, and I was fortunate enough to get my hands on this early. And you may still be able to get your hands on some discount prices on this. That's not what we're here for. The idea behind this is a similar tool to what we use. This is what I use in my business a lot. It's called Design, and it was built by a gentleman by the name of Bertrand. He put this together quite a while ago in separate modules, and then just recently developed a platform UI where he could combine them all and put them into the cloud. And what he's done here is basically allowed access for production of graphical assets of various types. And when I say that is we can come in here and do the standard GPT, let's write some content and do a new campaign for like email content or whatever we wanted to. But the beauty of this is we can also go in and create free form AI designs using Midjourney, or I'm sorry, they're going to be adding Midjourney to this. They currently have DALL-E 3 running inside the system underneath Stable Diffusion as well. So you can kind of attach, like we were in the Focus idea, or Focus, however they pronounce that, being able to come up with realistic and artistic formats just by simply selecting those objects. Like here, if I wanted to start a guided or a free form, I could simply write a prompt like I did to create this best AI podcast image. It was simply a textual prompt. Or I could come in here and decide, do I want to go with a quick instant graphic, or do I want to make a masterpiece out of something and let DALL-E 3 be the generator of that object, where I could simply come in here and say, well, maybe I just want an object like a cat or a fish or whatever, and I want to put that on my website. So I say I want a fish that's angry. I don't have to come up with a prompt, or a happy fish. And I could even give it a camera angle of where I'm coming from. Maybe it's through a fisheye lens. Why not if it's a fish, right? And then let it create that. So all this really is an API interface connection to the actual AI generators that are out on the cloud, such as Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, Midjourney, all of those that we have access to. So a lot of people have put this UI layer on top of that to allow you to maintain your image creation and generation and all of your design work in one place. I'm not here to promote design at all. It's just a tool that I use. And I'm not going to wait for this to generate, but you get an idea. Sometimes these larger generations do take a while. It's not instant. It's not always the first thing that happens. You have to sit there and wait sometimes for a masterpiece to come to fruition. So go ahead.
Well, as Brad being an ex-art director would understand, as a photographer working with an ad agency, what typically happens is they call you in and they like your work. They say, hey, we want to understand how you would shoot this. And what they have done is they pulled together photos off the internet, stock photos, and built a look. It's not exactly what they want. It's a look. And it has some photos, and so this now gives you the ability for them to be able to create something for the client, or to show them what this might look like, until they bring somebody in and actually shoot the images and etc. It could be video. It's an amazing capability that we've got now, that I'm sure saves someone like Brad tons of time that he would have had to done before.
And I'm not
I hate to
go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
I hate to talk about this, but Canva has revolutionized, how we do graphic design. Now,
Yeah.
I hear people who are now, claiming to be graphic designers, and they show me their work on Canva, and I cringe because they're using 10 different typefaces. They're playing around with imagery, and they're so proud of what they've done that if I tell them, hey, that's really bad, they get angry, they get
Yeah.
furious. And I look at Canva this way: in the hands of a professional, it is a powerful tool. But in the hands of an amateur, it's kind of like using a microwave oven to heat up your dinner. But a lot of people believe they are a professional chef now that they've used this microwave. Okay. And it really takes the study of, the historic reason why we do some of what we do. Lee knows, there was a process to creating a great book cover, or a great photo shoot, or a great catalog, and it was a hell of a lot of work. And it had, we literally had 15 employees at this one studio I worked at, in 3 different departments in all these different disciplines. The computer came along and eliminated all of them. Okay, I do on one computer what used to take 12 people 25 years to do.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And that's what we're talking about. Those of you who are listening today, that's what we're talking about. Embrace the technology. I know
Well,
it.
I
Go
wrote
ahead.
an I wrote an article about this, and it's similar to what you're saying, Brad. And the things that haven't changed are lighting, creativity, composition. Those 3 things are the same. I may be able to go into Canva and create something that I think looks good. I give it to you, and you're like, wait a minute, why did you use red and green or red and purple? Those
Right.
colors are not they don't match. They're not on the right color spectrum. They're not complementary colors, blah, blah. They don't understand the science and design aspect of it. So to them, it looks good, and it's great they can do it.
Yeah.
But it's like a plumber, maybe, you go into a plumber, oh, look what I did. And you open the bottom of the drawer and there's pipes going everywhere. Well, that's not plumbing. That's
it works.
crap. Yeah.
Well,
But it
Well,
works.
anyway, it's the
not-
same
not to-
thing. They just don't
Yeah.
understand that. Anyway,
Well-
so I will say, though, one thing about AI real quick. AI, it seems to me, appears to have figured a lot of that. It does understand composition in some ways, and it does understand color palettes and complementary colors. So when you do get an image from an AI system, it does tend to be better than if you just threw it together yourself with the same elements.
Absolutely. I
It's
agree
true.
with that. Go ahead, Brad. You had something else to add to that?
No, it was just composition and all these things. A lot of people may not understand the rules still apply in great design.
Yes. Agree.
You also, whenever you frame a picture, you need threes. There's a reason why the way I've set up my studio here, it's threes. It creates a triangle. Everything here creates a triangle that makes your eye go in a circle. There's a reason why we use a certain typeface. There is a marketing and branding breakdowns, that we do in Word, that basically says who's the target audience, what are the colors that that everyone else is using. We're going to do the opposite. There is a very technical document that we put together before we create any branding whatsoever that breaks down why we're using purple and gold. There has to be a reason. It isn't just like, I love blue.
I'm
you
glad
can't
brought
just
that up. That's something that
You
not
know,
a lot of people realize is there
Well,
has
and
to be
square images versus round images, and
all
so
that.
have a whole the brain reacts totally different to those.
yeah.
colors, everything. It's all a matter of what's
Yeah.
hot, what's light, what's easy, what makes you blow up, what makes you
Mhm.
relax,
Yeah.
what makes you buy. I mean, there's all those types of things that
Yeah,
have to be
there is a
considered.
color.
There's definitely a psychology behind it.
There
Yep.
is. Okay, well, let's bump ahead just a little bit here. Ross, what have you got on your plate coming up recently that you're finding, as an interesting concept being used in AI? Have you run into anything lately that's kind of catching you off guard that you didn't expect to see?
Nothing
Just
really
curious.
catching me off guard at this point. I'm not surprised by anything that happens with AI.
Oh, you got to be surprised about this Sora thing. You come on, that it was sooner than I thought it was going to be available.
I'm
That
amazed
technology.
by it, but I'm not surprised by it. It's
No.
moving so fast. For me, my thought on that is kind of like social media unlocked the potential for smaller businesses to market like the bigger businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sora is going to unlock the creativity for somebody without a big box office budget to create box office films.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be able to put those out, and it would have the potential to go viral on social media or wherever they put it, and then they could blow up that way. I mean, imagine if you could create a full-length film and put it on Amazon to sell in the marketplace, or sell it to Netflix as a feature film. I think it's going to be kind of cool to see what happens, but I think there's going to be a lot of kickback from the bigger industries on this. And that's really what I anticipate watching, is the battle between the average Joe who's creative but hasn't had the budget to then go up against the big box office industry.
And I think they're going to lose because, and it's the same thing I've mentioned, I think my last week, we see YouTube now saying when they're going to flag your video if it's got AI. AI is bigger than Google. It's bigger than YouTube. It's bigger than all the It's going to run right over these guys whether they want it to or not. You're not going to, it's just the momentum is going to pick up and they're not going to have a choice.
They're playing catch up.
It's going to be like Blockbuster all over again if they don't adapt.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
Look at Bard. They've already renamed it to Gemini because they felt it wasn't advanced enough. They've already realized they have to adjust and accommodate each time they find out what the next step it's capable of is. And part of that is safeguarding. Obviously, we know that we have to put a fence around this thing, because if we don't, it could get loose and we might not know the consequences. As fractional CAIOs is what I call myself, Ross, in the same respect that you use as yourself, or a fractional CMO, as a lot of people are familiar with out there for chief marketing officers. It's that component that we're trying to instill in people to realize, look, you've got to evaluate your business. And that's something that we're using GPT to help us come up with ways that we can strategize with small businesses to help them understand the steps they're going to have to take to maneuver around this, and what is really going to apply to them in business. But before I go too deep, we're going to be coming to a close here soon. I do want to present a short video for the SORAS. That's a good one. Put an S on the end of that. It's a SORAS project that they've got going on. But I don't mean to put it in that light. There may be some audio here that I'll have to tune out, but this was one of the research progress videos that went out on YouTube, and I want you guys to see some of the video that's able to be generated with text prompts on Sora. Now we can talk behind this because it looks like there's no audio following up on this, but you'll see the prompt prior to the video and it'll give an explanation of where it started, and that's it. But look at this.
I love this one.
Wow.
It's probably the best one I saw.
Interesting. I didn't think it was. I thought it looked more. Now this one here looks totally real.
It does. Very much so. And there was no crossing over of the characters like you'll see in the Small Coyote video that's coming up shortly. And there's a cat video as well of a cat in a bed that you'll see a glitch in the arms on the cat, or the legs on the cat. But this is
the candle blowing out was the one that kind of tripped me out with the hands. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
I don't think I did. I thought this was a cute use of it.
Look at the tiny little bears.
Little red foxes. Little red,
little foxes.
Pandas,
No,
this is the one that I said will replace the drone footage.
Absolutely. To be able to produce an on-the-fly drone concept from real locations. Those are real locations that they're coming up from. I like the knitted.
I will mess you up.
The knitted.
This one was good, minus the physics of him walking here.
Yeah, the physics were a little broken.
That's the ship from Lost in Space, the original.
Oh.
That's cool.
Battling pirate ships.
Surfing in Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah,
or coffee.
Coffee. You can even create these amazing virtual non-existent things is what really blows me away. Now,
I think we're going to see movie stars that never existed in real life.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yep.
Now, I saw some weird scaling issues in one of the cinematics of the crowd where they're walking down sidewalks and things like that, where there's some subway entrances. There were some real scaling issues to those, and you'll see them as they come up. But that's probably further in.
Yeah, it's just crap. Forget it. It'll never make it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. No, not that at all. It's just,
well, they're already doing full featured films now with this stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, Disney's already got a hold of it.
Yeah.
It's a render. Yeah, it's a render kind of thing. Real-time rendering.
This one blew me away. When I saw
this is really well done.
Wow.
Aside from the camera being so perfect that it couldn't be a drone, this looks
Yeah,
amazing.
this is the one that's everybody says is the most realistic.
But
And then they have another one like this. They loop, and you can't even tell it's looped.
I've watched
And
those 360 cameras mounted to the backs of vehicles that look just like that, though, with a stem. You can't see the stem because of the camera location, but it has that same effect. This is what I like, is being able to create an ulterior universe.
yeah,
Doesn't exist. A paper universe, a steel universe, a liquid universe. There's just make something. Here's the cat. Now the cat gains an extra leg here. Watch his foot. Watch his foot. Zoop. There's a third one.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
He's just having to pick up another leg there.
mom.
Yeah. But even
Well,
the
this
natural
is the
effects.
year. This is the year that we can no longer trust what we see.
Yeah.
Nothing.
This is
Well-
just like in the movie The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where they framed him by creating a fake, him in the chopper killing all these innocent people.
Now,
And
here's the scaling
yeah.
issues right in here is one of them. As it rolled in, you may have seen
yeah, it does look like a tiny village
They were huge compared to the other people around them. But
with
there
a
was-
giants.
Yes. I found it interesting. It created a bunch of 50, 60 shows that never existed either.
Yeah.
It was-
Well, and then I think there's one where they take a modern car and turn it into an old car and driving down the road.
I don't know if I saw that one.
I've tried to create this same scene using green screens and those TVs like that. It's really a lot of damn work.
This one's cool. The pages are a little bit glitched on this one.
Mm.
But
I'm
still,
curious where they got if they're building the character models by scraping some of that metahuman stuff, because they are so similar in nature. Or if if NVIDIA allowed them.
well,
Watch the
they're
scooter.
even getting-
Watch the guy driving when he turns. The vehicle
Just
didn't
missing.
turn. It just rotated. I don't know if you guys caught that or not. Let me just show you this.
that was odd looking.
Oh, we got a commercial anyway. Hold on a second.
Beebs and The Rock, they got to get there.
Yeah, let me go back to that.
Little
Watch
bit in
when he
there.
skid steers past this. As soon as he gets around here, as he steers, the wheels don't turn.
Oh yeah.
It just
yeah.
just
Oh
turn
yeah,
and he
like
keeps
immediately.
going. The vehicle didn't turn at all. It just rotated the wheels.
Everything is awesome.
This
This
one I thought
one's
was
cool.
Yeah, because the horse
That
legs
is cool.
weren't messed up. They had all kinds of
Look at
horses
that.
walking through here
It's
with 4
Old
legs.
fashioned Western town.
Oh, there was a 2-legged horse. I just saw it.
You
Talk about
boys new to
Westworld
town?
scenarios.
Did
You
see-
boys new
did
to
you see
town?
Did you
Come
see
on
the
in.
2-legged horse? Here's the 2-legged horse right here. You see it?
My
To the
son's
left?
the second best shot in the West. I'm the first.
I love
That
it.
ain't bragging. It's the truth.
I think this is where
Oh yeah.
we'll see.
We're gonna
the
get some
scale
flapjacks today, boys.
problem.
That is cool.
But for it to be able to do that and create a scene that
Ah.
doesn't exist.
You boys gonna pull your pistols?
So this is 10 minutes of footage, just to give you an idea. We don't have to go through the whole thing. I'll scrub through a little bit of this so you guys can get a feel. The drone footage, I think, is amazing. And no, those are not real people. Here's the one that the scale issue came in on next. You'll see this.
Yeah.
So they're walking
is
down the
cool.
street in Tokyo, and watch the little characters in front of the 2 mains in front here at the bottom of the screen, and watch all the ones in front as they disappear off the screen. You'll see them just kind of
tiny.
disappear into little folds, and like
It's like a forced perspective.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
Ah.
And it doesn't quite fit. But hey, like you said, these will all
Hey,
be
for a first
right.
try, holy crap, this is
Yeah.
incredible.
And even these time
Well,
moves, it's
Well, the
crazy.
other thing is, how much of this footage do you need? Most of the time, 5, 6 seconds. You're editing something like this together.
Yeah.
You know, you're not doing a oneer where you're showing a whole long scene.
No, and that's the beauty, the B-roll perspectives here, and to be able
Uh-huh.
to take these and
Hello,
create
I'm
full-length
so
movies
French.
with just small, small
Comment
sections. Cuts
Wow.
and takes. This one's
The detail in these close-ups are what just
Yeah.
drive me insane with how amazing they are. The hair on that man's face and then her eye.
Apparently, they're saying you can decide, tell what kind of lens you want. I think Leland was saying this early, 70 millimeter wide angle, whatever.
you give it all the prompt direction you can as to what equipment you're
You can
using.
actually hear what's going on there.
Have you guys heard when they're going to release this to us?
No.
No, I suspect by the
Apparently,
end of the
what
year,
they're
from
doing
what I've
right,
heard.
one thing they're doing right now, I think what you can, if you what's his name is on, the CEO is on Twitter, and if you text him and give him a prompt, he'll try and create it and post it.
Oh, nice. The one that really blew me away the most, I think, on this one that told me this is going to change everything. Well, we already know it will, but watch this next one of a train scene in Tokyo. It's hard enough for us as video producers to get the right scene when it comes to glass. And look at this reflection that comes up in 2 seconds. Was
Wow.
that just like you can
That
see
is-
the faded
Oh
reflection,
wow!
and then it comes up to her with that black background, and just boom, her face.
Look at
is
that.
right
That
there.
is
like
cool.
it's-
Look at that.
Wow!
It's crazy.
There's a tiny little gnome in his own dome city.
This is why I think the spatial computing is going to be huge too. If you can create these while you're watching them in AR, imagine being able to create a IMAX type movie while you're in the AR situation, just watching it.
Tell it what you want to watch. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that concept that you should be able to tell the AI, I want to watch a movie. I want it to contain this antagonist, this protagonist, these many other characters. I want it to have this storyline, and I want you to produce an hour show that's in France, moves to Italy, goes to Tokyo, ends up in South America, and the guy gets the girl. And just play it. I guarantee you that's how videos are going to be made.
And put me as the main character.
Put your face on the main character. Why not?
No, I'm in AR and I am the main character going through these places. I'm the one. I'm Tom Cruise jumping out of a plane. I'm doing all this stuff.
When you think about it, it is the natural progression of video on demand.
It is.
It is. I don't want to watch this tonight. I'm going to make up my own movie. You just program it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went Ryan Gosling. I want.
Should we sell the trademark rights for that now and get
Mhm.
There you go.
before it's too late?
I
Make
say
your
we
own
get a
story.
whole bunch of actors together and say, hey, let's partner and let's build an experience where we can all have a fireside chat together.
Yeah.
You know, that's how United Artists started. You get a bunch of some of these, actors and actresses, and they form their own AI studio and do their own movies.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, Lee, we got just enough time for your little demo video here. I think we should put together on Focus. However they're pronouncing that product. We just gave some examples of video. Now we're going to get back into the photography end of things, and Lee's going to let us see how we can do better with Focus.
So I've been playing with this tool I call it Focus. It's called Focus by some people, and it's got 3 O's, ZUS. And what makes it unique and different is that it's open source. So you can run basically one batch file and install it on your Windows machine. Apparently, I think it's supposed to run on Mac, but it definitely runs on Windows. And so I've been playing with it, got it running. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about it, of course, because like most things, you use them to do what you need to do. And the rest of the stuff, like, well, I'll learn that later. And so I put a little demo together. But the nice thing about it is, you don't have to be connected to the internet. Once you got it running, it runs locally on your computer. You can generate whatever you want, turn as many images you want, however you want, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So I'll show you what it looks like. Let's see here. This is a new player I've got. Let me get
your title off of that screen there for you for a minute there. Okay. I'm gonna fire that trigger.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
So this is what the screen looks like when you first install it. It's pretty blank. You're like, well, what do I do? Basically, just type in here what you want to generate. So I think in this one I said it should come up and say, create an orange cat with a red top hat. And that's what it'll do. And also I'll show you a few versions of this and some other things you can do with it. And you click the generate button, and then you wait. And I've kind of edited this a little bit so it doesn't take the whole time to generate, but it's going to depend on your computer, of course, and the GPU you have. I think you have to have an NVIDIA GPU.
Yeah, you have to
So it's going to,
at least from what I'm aware of, you have to have at least an RTX video card. It will run on a GTX of old, but it's going to take so long for the card to generate anything.
yeah.
If you're below an RTX 1050 Ti, you're going to be struggling. So you'd want to.
Okay. So then it's got an advanced feature, and if you click the advanced feature, you got a lot more buttons and bells and things. So you can tell it to prioritize speed or prioritize quality. You can set all these different size formats you want and aspect ratios. You can even go in and add your own if you want. So it doesn't come with 1920 by 1080 for some reason, 16 by 9 or 9 by 16. So I added my own. You can put a negative prompt in. The history log lets you go in and see the images you created. So these are the ones I just created a while ago. It gives me the prompt so I can recreate it. It gives me the size and a lot of technical information. So that's pretty cool. You can then go in and also change the type of image. So right now it defaults to like a photo, realistic photo. There's some other settings there, which I'll be honest, I don't know what they do or how they work, but so anyways, and the cat thing, by the way, is that's just the way it does as an example. Just because I put in a cat does not mean that's what you're going to see in the previews. That's just what the icons they use. So the next thing I did is I went through and I said, okay, let's see what happens. Let's change that. So I changed it to adorable 3D character. And this is the same. It created the same cat, gave it a black hat for some reason instead of a red one. The first image did. And then here's the other one. So it's creating these just by clicking a button and changing the stuff on the left. It's pretty simple to use. You don't have to know a lot of stuff, a lot of fancy things. You can just start small. You can also change the number of images you want. So if you want to create 3, 4, 6, 10, 12 images, it'll do that. And then you can go, take a shower, get a cup of coffee while it's doing it. So you do that, you generate. Now, the other cool thing is it also has the ability to upscale. So you can take an image it's created, drag it from the top up here and down into this box and tell it to upscale, and it will take that same image and give you a higher resolution one. Or if you double click on this box, it will allow you to upload any image on your computer. So you can basically do AI scaling or higher resolution images. Let's say you download something from the internet or Facebook or whatever, and you want to upscale it, you can do that right here, which is pretty cool. So that's what I did. This is one I generated, and the first one I generated was using the standard. Is it playing here? Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So the first one I generated was using 1152 by 896. I don't know why, probably just the thing I had it set on. And it created an image like that. But when I told it to upscale it twice, it basically generated an image that was 2304 by 1792. And the quality is amazing. Now, what I didn't show you here is just for the fun of it, I took it and dragged that image in and upscaled that, and that went high double. And then I did it again. It created this like 35 gigabyte file or some crazy thing. Took forever, but it will just keep up-resing and up-resing these images as high as you want them to go, I guess. So the other thing is I went through and played around just to show you some other formats. So it says, okay, let's create this heroic image. I went in and said, create a character of evil battling, a warrior battling evil, and it came back with this image. And it's pretty quick. I have my machine is an AMD machine with a 3080 12 gigabyte card in it. So it's not too bad.
Now, have you been able? I've been playing around a little bit with character creation, but I haven't been very successfully on taking an existing image of, say, myself and making it look like I'm Superman or some other,
Well, I don't know if
character.
I added that. I had that in here. What you can do, and I don't know if I show it in here. I know I was playing with it, but I might have not done it just to save some time. You drag that image into or upload that image into that box I was showing you, and then you tell it to create it again, and it will basically create it. So let's say I've got an image I've created on Midjourney or something, and I can't seem to get Midjourney to create it again the way I want it. What I'll do is I'll bring it in here, and I'll tell it to create another image, and it will take and duplicate it basically. Then I can go in and click one of these other buttons and say, okay, take this image and create it as a a cartoon or something, and it will basically use that as a model and do that. Now, one thing I don't think I show here earlier, if you notice when I scrolled down, there was an option for random. If you uncheck that button called random, then it will use what's called the same seed number, and it will not create another image that looks differently. It will basically use that same image as a model. So that's something you should try and see if that works, and I can help you with it.
Because
so these are two images.
Cool.
Yeah, they've created prompts, I know, for certain systems that allow you to do just that, is create like a avatar or a persona that is consistent and always looks the same.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the big drawbacks. It's hard to get these AI systems to do is be consistent. That's the goal I think they're all trying to get to. I know Midjourney's really working on that hard to try, because without it being a consistent image, you can't really do much with it. And so this is the same warrior image, but I just changed to click to do a clay version, and that's what it looks like. Let's see what the next. So then the next one I think is let's see here.
Yeah, you can go ahead and scrub through that a little bit, Lee, if you want. We're coming up on the hour here anyway. So I want to wrap it up.
Okay, so then the next one, I think I did the same kind of thing. I did it with a cat, and then I did this is one called Space Art, and it created this one, and then this one. So basically, I would it's free. You can download it for free. I encourage you to check it out if you have a Windows machine, for sure. It doesn't take much work, and you can play with it and see what it does. There's also some really good YouTube videos of people showing you how to install it and that type of thing, modify it. Like I've learned how to do, one thing is it will only run on one machine, but I'm like, well, wait a minute, there ought to be a way I can connect to it via my network. And I found out I put this one command in the batch file that starts it, and now I can create access it from my Mac over the network. Oh, nice. Which is great. So I don't have to install it on the Mac. I just run it off the Windows machine remotely. Nice. So anyway, so there's a lot of cool things. Yeah. So it's a cool product. It definitely gives you an example of what you can do, and being able to experiment and play without worrying about the cost, I think, is a great way to learn.
Absolutely. Yep. And we always worry about putting our content up on the web if we are trying to duplicate other images or maybe our own stuff that we've decided we want to enhance a little. We kind of feel like we're letting that little dog, puppy, child, whatever, out the door without a leash and going, is it going to come back to me or am I going to lose it? So, Brad, you were going to say something real quick, and then we'll give Ross the close.
I just think it was awesome what you showed us. Thank you, Lee.
Yes, thank you for that. Much appreciated.
I'll show you, something that was interesting about that. Let me go back, kind of remind me that video, the video we were looking at earlier. Not mine, but the other one. Somebody's done. I saw a demo today of where someone took the sample video, brought it into a program that allows normally is called photogrammetry. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but basically you take a bunch of pictures and it converts it into a 3D model. Yep. They were using NURBS or some other technology, but anyway, it took the video and because you can now take the video and say, okay, go around, right, like the drone photo, and it turned it into a 3D model. That blew me away. Now you're talking about, now you can animate it, do whatever you want. Now that's the whole you were talking about earlier about the human metahuman. That's really, so that's the piece that's missing. That's the two areas I think are most exciting, and the most growth is text to video and text to 3D.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ross, take us home. What do you got? Give us some score of where you're taking people this week over at AI Fusion. You got anything in store for us over there?
The biggest thing that I think people need to look into is actually fusing AI into their business and doing it with these kind of technologies, but then also with the language models. And what we're doing is building models into where it has conversations for customer support. If you are a small business, you now have the opportunity to implement AI into your business so that it actually answers questions like that instead of waiting for a human. And it will take the task list that's hundreds of people that you have to answer, and it'll take it down to 10, 15, 20, because AI took care of all the stuff that you taught it already, and it doesn't need you to answer it. So just the technology's there, and it's very inexpensive. So highly recommend people look into the language models.
Absolutely. And just so you know, Chris, Ross, and I all run consecutively as fractional CAIOs of one form or another, of CMOs. So that's kind of why we're here. We're here to help people. And the reason for the podcast was to help instruct, to educate, to play with this stuff for all of you. And if you ever feel that one of the people on this panel is someone you'd just like to talk to behind the scenes and get more information for, you can reach out to us at bestaipodcast.tv, whether at info or myself or Lee being the executive producers. The rest of us are just here, know who they are. Ross McCamey from Maverick Solutions, Brad Slows from Awaken Nation podcast. So get a hold of these guys and let them know, hey, I'm trying to write a book. Can you help me steer me in the right direction on what you're doing? Or let me learn with you. That's kind of what the groups are for. Ross has AI Fusion. I have Best AI Podcast. There's just cross collab between it all. We're not trying to segregate people. We're just trying to help people. So thanks, Ross.
And in AI Fusion, that's a place where we come to answer questions directly. So if you want to talk to any of us, join the AI Fusion group, and we'll answer in there, and we're very accessible in that group.
That's on Facebook, right?
Yes, it is on Facebook.
We're still waiting for Lee or this guy over here to show up. So
I'm on there. I was just teasing. He didn't mention Facebook. I was trying to help him out.
That's correct.
No, thank you.
And we will be soon available on Spotify and possibly Amazon and the Apple Podcasts soon. But we are in the Podcast Unlimited directory, and we're also going to be broadcast through Acast with the audios on these. So we'll strip those once the videos are edited, and we'll upload those for audio only listening if you'd like. So
and leave any comments in the video below on YouTube. If something you want to see us cover, right in there. We'll read those things.
Yeah, we do, don't we, at times? And I know I had a video, I think, to close out, but we're just going to close with a little bit of who knows what. You know how it is. Sayonara, folks. We'll see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. at
See you
Best
next Sunday.
AI Podcast. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
This digital age, we're breaking